Thank you and welcome to the April 12th, 2021 Education Committee and Supplementary Regular Board Meeting of the Lower Merion Board of School Directors. Due to COVID restrictions, this meeting is being held in the Lower Merion High School auditorium. And as we return to in-person meetings, we appreciate your patience moving forward as we work out the kinks. And I would also like to remind you that our 2 monthly 8 p.m. board meetings will also be live streamed and available via Zoom during the transition. We as a board believe it's in our best interest and in the best interest of the students of the district to hear comments from the Lower Merion and Narberth residents. Public comment can be given tonight in person and via the chat feature, which will be read by district personnel. This meeting is being video recorded with sound for public broadcast. All participants joining via Zoom will be muted upon entry. So we're going to start this evening's meeting with an update about the 2021 summer programs. Mr. Copeland?
Thank you, Ms. Klein. So we have one summer program that was also part of the curriculum committee of the board, and just an update on the middle school feels not really a presentation from Mr. Lill, but first, Dr. McGloin, our Assistant Superintendent, just by way of the public, when the cabinet gathered together, they introduced themselves because they hadn't seen many us other in public in so long. So, Dr. McGloin.
Thank you, Mr. Copeland. So we're going to go back to our traditional offerings for summer enrichment this year. As always, summer enrichment programs are really important for our school district because they create a sense of belonging. It's not only about academic skills that we're supporting in the summer, but it's also about improving social skills and making learning fun and having a place where students feel like they belong and are safe. And so summer enrichment programs are a vital part of our organization. In our district specifically, we have 4 facets for our summer learning programs. They're academic enrichment, remediation, acceleration, accelerated learning opportunities, and transition for support. And you'll see these little bars on the slides as we go through as they attach to the different programs that we are offering this school year. As a highlight, we have 13 summer programs we're offering K-12 this school year. They're housed in many of our schools. You'll see there's actually 18 programs that are listed. That's because a variety of our programs are offered in more than one building. And they also include the ESY number. So we really have 18 different offerings throughout all of our schools. Transportation is provided by the district. And this year, because of the summer food service program, we're able to offer breakfast and or lunch in some of the programs. It really depends on the program and the timing of the program, but some of our students will receive lunch. Other students will get a grab-and-go bag that will replace a snack. That would be a breakfast. So we're offering that for free this year as well. First program that I'm going to highlight is SPIES. SPIES will be expanded this school year. SPIES has actually been in the district since 1993. And it's a great program that provides services for students who need additional reading, writing, and mathematics support at the elementary level. This year we're expanding it so that we can include up to 390 students in the program. We'll focus on offering the program to our economically disadvantaged students and students identified as having a need for additional academic support in reading and math. After we highlight those students, we'll add in any additional students that want to participate in the program. This program will be offered for free this school year, and we will be using our money that we received from the ESSER funds to pay for that. We have 15 students in every one of our groups, and our employees teach the classes, and we have instructional assistants that assist with that. We have a theme, which is Enjoy Your Summer, that allows us to bring in assemblies and periodic visits from our mascots in the district. During a typical day, our students have a morning meeting. They receive reading instruction, they receive math instruction from a math specialist, and twice a week they have a art and STEM special. There's also additionally lunch and recess in this program. Elementary STEM will again be offered this school year. It was not offered last school year, but it will be back this school year. And it's an opportunity for our students in grades 4 and 5 that are rising. Our 3rd and 4th grade teacher representatives meet with team members to choose 8 students to participate who would benefit from the program that wouldn't traditionally benefit from this type of program. We focus on the design process, makerspace, robotics, and coding. And what's really neat about this program is that our students in the National Society of Black Engineers and Science Olympiad volunteer for for the program and work with our students. Our ELD program last year was only offered at the elementary level. That will be brought back to the middle and the high school level this school year. Students who are in the entering to developing range are invited to this program, and so there really are beginning ELD students that are invited to the program. We emphasize social, intercultural, instructional communication, and English as well. And there is a focus on language arts, social studies, history, math, and science. Math acceleration, you've seen this slide before. You've probably seen this slide a lot before. We offer math acceleration in the school district at a bunch of different touch points at the end of 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th grade, all the courses prior to Integrated 1. We have bridge programs that the district offers. The Integrated 1 students actually are able to accelerate through credit recovery and acceleration program of MVP. So specifically, we have a math bridge program for our rising 5th grade students to 6th grade math. It's a virtual program, and the students receive support 1 day a week through our instructors. Students have to successfully complete this class to take Math 6 in grade 5. And this year, a little different than in the past, we're actually letting all students test into this course. In the past, we had only our advanced students test, but because of the pandemic, we really want to give that opportunity to all of our students this year to see how they could do. This occurred last summer as well. Also, the 6th, 7th grade, 7th, 8th grade math occurred last summer. We will offer it again this summer, and that's also a virtual program for our students where we provide 1 day of in-person instruction with our staff. And it's designed to ensure students are prepared with pre-algebra skills. So students have to successfully complete this program to take the Math 7-8 course in grade 6. So our math bridge for 8th graders last year was the first year we offered this course, and it was really successful. It was run through MVP. We will again offer this course through MVP. We also, though, have instructors that are available for our students 2 days a week in this class. And students who are successful in this course are able then to take integrated math in grade 8. The Yes Academy will run again this summer, and the Yes Academy has been in place for a while. It's a thematic, hands-on experience. This year specifically, we're going to focus on broadcast journalism. You can see that we have up to 50 students in this program. If we have more students interested this year, we will add another section. Again, that is paid for with our ESSER funds this year. And so if we can expand this program, we will be expanding it this year.
The ESSER funds are the federal grant.
Yes, the federal funds. Yep, thank you. So new this year is our middle school summer STEM program. And this actually came through our Achievement Imperative Task Force. And so we will be offering this program to our students in grade 8. And we're looking to expose targeted groups of students to computer science and engineering activities to help steer them towards multiple courses in computer science and engineering when they get to the high school. We can have up to 96 students participate in this course. It's a pretty neat course. There's actually going to be 2 different programs that will be running simultaneously. The first program is coding and programming, and the second program will be focused on engineering. And so we will be focusing our students with the area of students of color and underrepresented groups for this program. But it's a really exciting opportunity for our students. Also new this year is ITAS, and that is specifically focused on our students in grades 6 through 8. We'll be looking to focus on students with identified learning gaps and pre-teach and reteach information for these students in the area of math and English language arts. The number is to be determined because we will invite students, and as many students that are willing to participate will be able to have in the program. So specifically in this program, we're looking at really small group instruction of up to 4 students at a max, or one-on-one tutoring. We're going to offer the program in 2 different ways. We're going to offer a virtual program for students, and we're going to offer a face-to-face program. And so we're really looking to target students and get them in. Specifically, we're looking at students to focus on quarter grades, benchmark, common assessments, and attendance. And so really our students who really need that extra support will be targeted for this group. Again, this summer, we will offer secondary summer school. Last year, we had 845 students participate in summer school. All of our students participated through MVP, which will be an option this year. Face-to-face will also be an option this year. Our summer school program is offered for 2 different reasons. Credit recovery, and that's for students to make up courses that have failed, and then accelerated learning, which primarily is the way that our students participate in this program. So the majority of the 845 students actually were for accelerated learning. High school bridge program will occur again this year. That started in 2008, and that's for 8th grade students coming into 9th grade to help them be successful in their freshman year. There's a focus on study skills, organizational skills, touring the high school, practicing reading their schedules, finding their classrooms, and meeting their counselors, administrators, and teachers. So it's a nice bridge program from 8th to 9th grade for a focused group of students. And we have about 50 students per school that participate in this program. Smart Literacy is our next program, and that supports entering 9th grade students in critical, independent thinking, reasoning, and comprehension skills. It also helps them navigate their summer reading. Traditionally, we have about 30 students that participate in this program. The writing program is a pretty neat program as well. Writing program is for students who really want to expand their creative writing skills. A lot of students that participate in this program end up being our writing fellows at the high school. We have about 20 students that usually participate in this program. So we have a lot of programs and a really exciting time this summer. We're going to be coming back to face-to-face in the district, while we will also have some virtual offerings. Primarily, it'll be a face-to-face session for all of these different programs. So we're pretty excited about the summer. Any questions? Shana?
All right, okay. Thank you, that was a fantastic presentation, and I'm really excited to see all the options we're offering our students this year. I have 2 questions. One is about the high school students taking both credit recovery and acceleration. Is it set up so that one student could be taking a credit recovery and another student could be accelerating in the same course? So like a rising junior be taking a junior level course with a rising senior that just failed that course?
It's possible. We have a lot of students participate in biology, for example, because they're doing it for acceleration, and then some students need to take it for credit recovery. So there is that possibility.
And so the teachers know that and they do some differentiation in their teaching?
Yes.
Fantastic. My other question was just, I'm curious a little bit of background about what the teacher support for the math acceleration programs is like. Is it supplementary instruction, homework help, troubleshooting?
So, well, the acceleration is virtual and asynchronous, so it is both support and troubleshooting. So it could be some pre-teaching, but it's also where there's areas of support that are necessary because it's an asynchronous offering.
And it's a pretty small group then?
Yes.
Okay, great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Just a question around transportation in the summertime for some of the STEM program and the ITAS and those. Do we provide transportation for those?
Yes.
And then my other question, thank you. And then my other question was around the 1 day a week of support for the math. How is that structured around office hours, or are they coming together as a group for that 1 day of support? How is that structured?
I'm not 100% certain. I believe it's office hours just because of the asynchronous nature of the offering. So different students need help at different times because of that. I think we structure it with certain times that students can come into the building, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah.
Hi, thank you so much. I asked this at the committee meeting too, but I just wanted to ask it again. This is an amazing set of programs that are available to the students. How many typically opt into them? Like you talk about who you're targeting, and if you could just talk about that for a bit.
Sure. As I said at the meeting, it really depends on the offering and the level of students that participate. So I would say at the middle level and the high school level, it feels like it's we offer it out to maybe a third of the students say yes of who we offer it feels like. At the elementary level, that number's higher. So it's dependent on what we're offering, that answer.
Could you give us a little description of like field trips and how that's going to work? I asked this question at the school board meeting too.
Sure, absolutely. So we actually will not go out to field trips. We're not doing that at this point in time. We'll do virtual field trips where the students participate virtually with those trips. Most likely we won't have anybody come in either yet, so it'll be virtual offerings.
Hi, thank you so much. This is a question that actually just occurred to me. So for the high school transition program, even though a student may be coming in the fall, will there be an opportunity to, will something be created virtually for those students that maybe in the summer are not going to come into the building, but will come into the building once school starts?
We already have created some actual virtual sessions for students so that they could get a view of what the high school looks like, but we will continue with that so that they have something they can look at. It obviously won't look the same as being in person, but we have created some of that already for our students.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you for the, I'm going to take this off. Thank you for the presentation. I wasn't able to get to the curriculum meeting. I really appreciate the variety of programs. This has really expanded our ability to reach students at different points, particularly the math curriculum. And I'm just trying to understand, last summer, I know that the district allowed any student who wanted to get additional help in, I believe it was math and English, math and writing skills, I don't remember exactly what it was. Is that the same, or are these all new? In other words, is that part of the new programs, or is this something different?
So we're not running RAM again. I think that's what you're thinking of. Last summer we had the RAM program, RAM, and I believe that was it. But we do have a variety of offerings. We were looking, like middle school in particular, we were looking at this week to talk about which students could potentially go into all the different programs, because there are a lot of different programs for our students. And could we have students maybe be in more than one program, because that's also a potential. So while we're not offering RAM, we do have a variety of programs for our students, and we have expanded those offerings this summer as well.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
So I'll follow up a little bit on that question. So last summer, the RAM essentially replaced SPIES, but was a bigger program because so many families chose to participate in, right? And so this year, we're going back to sort of the more traditional model of the SPIES, plus a number of additional offerings. Is that a fair?
That's correct. I believe, and you can answer this, Dr. Gaudioso, wasn't RAM more than just elementary? It was middle and elementary?
There was a K-12.
Yeah.
There was a K-12
Yep, right.
program, and there was RAM.
So there was a K-12 program and there was RAM. So that's not going to exist anymore, but we have expanded our offering. So we should be able to still have the same number of students participate in different programs, though, this summer.
Right, great, thanks. And I should acknowledge that last summer was prior to you even being at the district.
I just realized that.
We are asking questions.
I'm like, there's a couple things that I'm a little foggy on still.
I apologize. I just realized you weren't actually here last year. It feels like you've done so much work for us that it's been a lot longer than that. I know last summer we spent over $1 million in order to work with students because of the pandemic. I know that I think we were the first school district to do that. And I'm just wondering, I heard some of the funding is coming from additional federal monies, but I'm assuming some of this is coming from our regular budget as well.
Yeah, so one of the challenges, of course, is that the federal money comes with, it's categorical. You're going to have to spend it in certain particular ways. And so we're still working through that, but we're not going to not do what we think we need to do, and we'll just move forward.
Thank you.
I should say that all the programs except for the acceleration program at the high school will be free this summer. So every program that we talked about, except for the high school acceleration, where we're looking at students moving forward with courses, everything else will be free this summer.
Thank you. And I wanted to ask about the ITASK program, because you had indicated that it came out of the Achievement Imperative Task Force. Is it a sort of a summer version of the tutoring, the broader tutoring program?
So that one didn't come out of the Achievement Imperative Task Force. The STEM program did. However, it is, you could think of it like the summer, the regular tutoring program. In fact, we're really hopeful that our students make a really nice connection with the teachers they have this summer, and then we can continue right into next school year with the students and the tutors together. That's a real hope that we have through this program. So it is, I would say, an extension of it to some extent.
That would be terrific, that continuity, if they had a relationship.
Yep.
Great.
Yeah, we're hopeful about that.
Thank you very much. Are there other, sorry, this is a super unfortunate setup.
Can you describe about the lunch program, how that's going to work this summer?
It depends on the timing of the program, so not every student will be provided lunch. SPY specifically will definitely have lunch because of the time of that program. It depends on how long they're in and what we've offered in the past. So if it's more like we've offered snack, what we'll do is we'll do a breakfast instead, which will be a grab-and-go bag, and it'll have some snack items in there. So some programs will have lunch and some will not have lunch. It just really depends on the timing.
Can I follow up on that? I know that I think it's not necessarily directly related to the summer programs, but the district is able to provide meals all summer long, as we've been doing sort of through the pandemic.
Yes.
Is that accurate? So in addition to, you know, if students were getting lunch at their summer school, any student in the district has access or would be able to access meals throughout the summer as is happening now.
Yep, the program is lasting actually all the way through the summer is my understanding of it.
Thank you. All right, thank you very much, Dr. McGuane.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Lil, how close are we to?
I can't. Yeah, okay, I can't move the mouse. I don't know why it's not moving. Okay.
Well, while she's doing that, so over the last couple of weeks, as members of the board are aware, members of the community, we've been getting a lot of communications concerning the fields at 1835 County Line and 1800 Montgomery Avenue, and I thought we would try and clarify this evening some of the issues that have been raised by the community. First, let me give some context as to how we got into this situation in the first place. It seems like so long ago, but I think it was maybe around the spring of 2017. Well, let me go back. The year before that, the question was asked, can we solve some of our enrollment overcrowding? Lower Merion being one of the, if not the fastest growing school district in the Commonwealth. Can we deal with some of our growth by either adding on to all of our schools, particularly our elementary and middle schools, or by creating a third middle school where all the middle schools were grades 5 through 8? And after some discussion with the board and administration, we decided that at least initially we would pursue that situation. So we began looking for an area where we could build a third middle school encompassing grades 5 through 8. We have a broker, and that broker and myself, and primarily Mr. Orlando, our business administrator, took trip after trip after trip through the district, looking at various areas. I was in one part of town and somebody said, hey, how about Ashbridge Park? We looked at Ashbridge Park. People in that area said, no, that's not a good fit. So we began looking at a variety of other places. Commissioner Cheryl Gelber said to, I think president at the time, Melissa Gilbert, how about 1860 Montgomery Avenue? So myself, I was able to drive by the area. It's private property. Couldn't get on the property. That was in the spring. Couldn't get on the property all summer long. And finally in the fall, our broker got us on the property. I looked at the property, looked at where it was in the community, and saw how far it was from our existing schools. It's got a slope to it. I said, it really isn't ideal. It's only about 21 acres. We really need about 35 acres at minimum if we're going to have a middle school with field spaces and so forth. So my recommendation was that this was not going to be a particularly good site unless we could have field spaces to go along with it. And we set about looking for fields. And again, people would make recommendations. We would follow up on those recommendations. None of them panned. Finally, we looked at a piece of property on Spring Mill. And on that piece of property, we looked at it. It was for sale. The owner wanted to sell it to us. And we looked at it, it proved to have some challenges, but it allowed us to have a baseball field and a softball field. It still meant that we had to go off-site for some other sports. So it would have meant that the new middle school would have had multiple locations. All of our 4 secondary schools have to go off-site to do sports. None of them have a campus which is able to encompass all of the sports on the site as it currently exists. So we were about to take a look at that property with sincerity, and we all of a sudden found out that there was a possibility of 1835 and 1860. This is the spring, I believe, of 2018. Sounds about right. And we started to look at that property seriously. We weren't getting very far with our negotiations with the owners. Dr. Gilbert, I don't know if it was her Spidey or whatever or something, said that she'd heard that Villanova was looking at the property. So we tried to make a move for the property so that Villanova wouldn't get the property. Who knows what Villanova would have built on the property, but we wanted to get the property before they did. And we acquired the property in the December of 2018, and finally came to resolution in the spring of 2019. And we've been preparing to use the property for fields. Our arrangement with the current owners were that they were able to stay on the property until the spring of 2023. But we wanted to get the process moving. And so we started getting the approvals ready. And that's what brings us to the point now. So this has been going on for a number of years, where we've done a number of presentations, newsletters to the community, and letting people know what our plans were. What I've been hearing lately is that the school district should look somewhere else, and that using the property would demonstrate that we were not necessarily good stewards of the environment. With all due respect, I couldn't disagree more. What I'd like to do is have Mr. Lill share with you some recent development in the community and what it means to the environment, what it has meant to the environment. So, Jim?
Good evening, everyone. Jim Lill, Director of Operations, and I believe Mr. Copeland gave a very thorough introduction. So if I could be more specific to give you a perspective of the property that we're discussing here. Basically in the lower left-hand corner, let's call it the 7 o'clock position, that's County Line Road that's along the one edge of our property. you see one large rectangle, and then it narrows down to a second smaller rectangle. The larger rectangle is 1835 County Line Road, a 10-acre parcel. And then that smaller rectangle is 1800 West Montgomery. It has a West Montgomery Avenue address, however, it has zero frontage directly on the Montgomery Avenue. The image here was from October 16th of 2020, and this is basically the existing conditions. You can see to the lower left-hand corner the 7 o'clock position. I can't use a laser pointer because it won't show up on the video. There's trees in that area near the mansion. There's also a pool house that you might be able to see dead center in the image. There are a number of trees on this property, and to the previous owner's credit, he's done a very good job of maintaining that property, and we are certainly sensitive to the natural features and the conditions on this parcel as it stands today. I would like to note that the mansion is a Class 2 historic resource that is being preserved, and we are going to incorporate that into some future plans. The in-ground pool will be demolished. So there are a number of facts and figures that I think we could look at here, and this is just a brief overview. I know that there's been questions about how many trees are being removed. Is our plan code compliant? Are waivers required? I'm going to move past this slide because I do have it at the end, and it is going to be on board docs. The data is there. This is basically what it will look like post-development. You can see to the left-hand side, there is a smaller that's a softball diamond. That's the smaller 60-foot softball diamond. Sorry. That is an area where trees are being removed in order to construct that softball diamond. You can also see that in left field of softball is a half field that can be used in the fall. In the right field is a full-size soccer field that can be also used in the fall. So it has a very efficient layout in terms of utilization. It gives the ability for both the middle school fall sports and spring sports to have full accessibility. The other portion with the larger baseball, it is baseball, that's a 90-foot diamond set to PIAA compliant standards. Again, a half field in left field and a full-size field overlapping and extending beyond right field. So as Mr. Copeland explained, just to give some proportion and scale to our development and other developments, this is 335 Writers Ferry Road. It's a development that goes by the name of 335 Bala. This was the area from Google Earth before construction. This is the area during construction. And then this is the final plan. That's a 5-story apartment building, 210 units. Another, this is not as recent, Maybrook Apartments at 325 Penn Road. That's, in a few minutes, I'll be able to look up the construction date, but that was the conditions before construction. You can see in 2016, when they went in to actually perform construction, there's site clearing, particularly where the building footprint and the structured parking is going to go. And this is the current conditions there at Maybrook. So that was a development basically within the past 5 years. So in terms of the numbers, and again, we're doing this just for comparison or scale. 335 Bala was on a 5.11 acre property, and they have constructed and currently occupying a 5-story apartment complex at 210 units. There were 909 pre-existing trees on that site. So if you look at the density of the wooded area, it's actually more dense than what were the current conditions at 1835 County Line Road. Specifically, there was 178 trees per acre existing. Our property, again, which we're developing for the fields, the 2 parcels added together will be 13.36 acres. There are 681 trees, but there are actually some clear areas, and there are actually areas that aren't completely filled with trees. However, regrettably, trees do need to be removed because they will land in the field of play. We will be removing 502 trees, and that includes 24 that are being removed to accommodate the construction of the sidewalk along County Line Road that the township has requested. So the development at Writers Ferry, which removed 87 trees per acre, we are removing 38 trees per acre, and that is, again, taking into consideration existing trees along County Line Road, along that frontage that are there today, that need to be removed in order to build the sidewalk that's been constructed, or, I'm sorry, the sidewalk that's been requested.
The sidewalk has been, at this point,
Excuse me, sir, allow him to please finish his presentation. Thank you. The public comment will come at the end. Thank you. I'm so sorry, Bob. I thought that was the gentleman in this audience. I'm so sorry, Bob. Excuse me. It's so hard with the masks.
A2, Denise.
Sorry. Sorry. Great sound, Mike.
As you're saying, Mr. Copeland.
This is a requirement to put the sidewalks in.
That is correct.
It's not something we wanted to do. The sidewalk doesn't go anywhere, and I believe it causes a hazard on County Line.
I would agree with you completely. In terms of impervious coverage, and open space is very, very valuable to everyone in the township, just valuable in general. 335 Bala was 5% impervious beforehand. It's now at 55% impervious. We're actually going to be reducing the amount of impervious on the property that we are developing. Waivers were approved for that 335 Bala project. One thing I'd like to point out with the application that we currently have before the township, and this is part of the drawings that we provided to them back in December, we actually provided 2 landscape plans to them. One is a code compliant plan, which I've been showing as the graphic. The other one has waivers. Now, I know that it sounds like granting waivers lets the developer off the hook or the school district off the hook. One of the waivers that we're requesting, which was actually approved at 335 Bala, the replacement trees under code, by code, are required to be deciduous, which means they lose their leaves and don't provide that green effect, that benefit, that buffering in the off-season. We're asking not to plant deciduous trees, and we're not asking for a dramatic decrease in the number of trees. We're asking for the permission to plant evergreens, which would provide the green cover, the shade, not so much the shade, but the buffer, 12 months a year. The evergreens, I think, would be an enhancement. However, it requires a waiver. So in conclusion, again, I wanted to focus this at the 30,000-foot elevation, if you will. Again, the same Google satellite image. This is the rendering of what the final plan would look like. This shows the fields as well as the plantings in the code-compliant format. Does show the sidewalk along County Line Road. You can see that there's other green space around it. Stoneleigh is the property directly below where the fields are located. It's certainly within the context of its surroundings. And in my opinion, I am well aware of the importance that the community has for sustainability. Natural features are extremely important, as we agree, and we want to be consistent with our own sustainability efforts that the district has focused a great deal of attention to over the years. And the plan will result in a facility that will be for the benefit of the community. So if there are any questions?
Thanks, Jim. Before I open it up to the board for questions, I just want to say, again, the purpose here, and we picked a couple of examples. We could have picked many, many, many examples where these waivers have been granted. What we're looking for is the ability to work cooperatively with the township and the community to provide a place where children can recreate and play. That's got to be just as worthwhile as a 210-unit apartment complex that adds to the enrollment of the district and does nothing to support the welfare of the community as a whole. We've been bent over backwards to be good citizens and custodians of environment while addressing the field shortage for the district and township. We have conducted exhaustive searches for property and have acquired and designed a responsible space. The township has not proposed a single viable alternative, but has made only the same unhelpful suggestions to acquire property that is unavailable and unattainable. To the contrary, the township continues to apply higher standards to the district, who's trying to help kids, than it does for developers. So with that, the board has any questions?
Thank you. We should start over here. Mr. Lee, as the chair of the Facilities Committee, if you have anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, I just wanted to, we've received a lot of letters about the trees, and certainly, the district cares a lot about the environment. We could go on about the sustainability efforts and building schools that are, LEED certified, CNG buses, and these sorts of things. But the thing I would ask is actually just let's not fall into this trap that the national politics is falling into, and just make this like an us versus them kind of thing. Happy to engage, talk to anybody. You may have read some things that are inflammatory. Some things are true, some things are not true. Like, I'm happy to engage with anyone who wants to go through the history and the options. I think if we want to mobilize as a community, the best thing to do is to let's work together to see if we can find an alternative. I don't think, we're putting the district in an impossible situation to pit trees versus kids. And really, that's really what this is about. Do we care more about the kids, or do we care more about the trees? So if we have alternatives, let's explore them. President Klein and I are working with the commissioners to look at alternatives and trying to find additional space. And if there's some available, of course we'll explore it. Of course we will. But let's not turn this into a battle where we're putting the administration in an impossible situation. Right? The kids need fields. Every single school with sports right now, our kids have to be bused to home games and home practices. So let's talk about carbon footprint, right? Like, those kids have to sit on buses. First of all, it's a terrible experience for them. And these kids permanently have to be on a bus. Now, I understand there's trees that need to come down, but there's a plan to plant additional, replenishment trees elsewhere. So as a net carbon footprint, we're better off cutting those trees down, replacing them somewhere else, and keeping kids off the buses, because that's a permanent carbon footprint increase. So let's settle down. Happy to work with you guys. If you reach out to me, I'll walk you through the history, come to the facilities meeting, but let's just get out of this like evildoers versus the good fight. We're all neighbors. We're all doing this for the benefit of the community and the kids.
Thank you. Deborah?
So thank you, Mr. Lee. I have just three follow-up questions, and I'll just say all three. And then, so for the softball and the baseball diamond, so my first question is, do you know rough acreage you would need for each of those? That's my first question. My second question is, I've heard rumor that orientation matters, that you want the pitcher and the batter more north-south, because if you're in the afternoon, east-west, somebody's facing the setting sun, so that makes it a hazardous condition. And my third question is, can we just build one of them and not the other, softball or baseball? So those are my three questions, if you don't mind. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Driscoll, so on the acreage question, I'm going to put the disclaimer that I'm doing this as a swag, which would be the terminology of sophisticated wild guess. I think we're probably taking up the fields, the fields are taking up about, I want to say 60% of that 13 acres. So you're probably looking at about 7 or 8 acres that would be the fields themselves. Now, I want to get the engineers to calculate that because having that level of accuracy. The second question about orientation of the baseball, and for that matter, the softball field. The requirement is that the line that goes from home plate through the pitcher's mound, the pitcher's rubber, through second base, basically to dead center field, which baseball fans will know as the batter's eye in dead center. That's supposed to be oriented east-northeast, and what that accomplishes is you don't have a batter standing in the batter's box fighting the sun at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. As the sun is setting, the batter's trying to pick up the pitch coming out of the pitcher's hands, and they've got the sun setting and coming into their eyesight. So again, that's an east-northeast orientation, again, from home plate through the pitcher's mound, basically straight out of the center field. We're not exactly on that orientation, but we're pretty close. In terms of the number of fields, as you can see, let's just say that all we built was the softball and the baseball fields. Well, in order to build the softball field, the amount of disturbance and the trees that would have to be removed would already have been removed. So in order to get that softball diamond in there, you've already done the clearing, and you've already, for the most part, cleared and graded that acreage, that putting those rectangular fields in the outfield as overlays is actually utilizing the same land, the same grading, the same turf for both seasons. You can see we also accomplished that with the baseball field with the overlays in both right field and left field without having to cross over into the skinned-in field, first base, second base, third base, and home. To your third and final question, hypothetically, what would happen if we just built a softball field but did not build the baseball field? Well, in the spring, we have to find facilities for all of our teams. And I know that Lower Merion High School does not have softball and baseball on campus. Both softball and baseball go over to South Ardmore. So from an equity standpoint, from Title IX, it's the same opportunities, the same facilities are being offered to both programs. If we were to just build the baseball field and we had those rectangular fields, probably in the fall we could probably balance that out so that there isn't any inequity there in terms of which teams are using it. If you only have a baseball field, the question is, where does your softball team go? Softball teams can't play on baseball fields, baseball teams can't play on softball fields. So in terms of compliance and having the same facilities available to all of our sports, the new middle school is about as close to Title IX compliant, I think, is what we're achieving, and we can keep everybody basically with exactly the same opportunities and exactly the same facilities fall and spring, regardless of whether it's a traditional boys sport or girls sport.
Thank you. Excuse me. I have a question, and then I want to say something. But am I accurate that at our current middle schools, 55% of our students play sports?
Good evening, Dr. Gilbert. I believe that's accurate. I think
around that.
And I believe track does have a very, very strong participation. So we have we're fortunate that we're able to get the track built into the new middle school, but your number does sound about right.
Yes, I think it is close to that. I have a couple of things I want to say. The school district has been working on this for a very long time. We made it very clear that we weren't going to be able to build on 1860 unless we had fields. We have asked people in the township for what land would be available. We never get any real answers. We get things like, buy the 4 neighbors' houses, or eminent domain the 4 neighbors' houses. We're going to eminent domain somebody's house, right? Not that it would be enough space. I've read in comments today that, why didn't you eminent domain, a grocery store and its parking lot? Well, first of all, we would actually have to pay for the value of that grocery store and parking lot. It's not, you have to pay fair market value. We originally went to Stoneleigh, the 6.9 acres that are, were zoned for potential sale, to ask them if they would sell it to us. That's where they do their composting, and they said no. And the commissioners said, not one blade of grass will be disturbed, according to them, right? Okay, so we moved away from Stoneleigh. Superintendent Copeland was skewered for suggesting, Ashbridge Park, right? There is no large space of land where we could have built the school and the fields. We talked a lot to the seminary. In fact, we had President Bernheim arranged a meeting with us. It was very clear that they were not interested, and they already had a deal with Mainline Health. We cannot eminent domain another school. We cannot eminent domain a hospital. We cannot eminent domain a church or a synagogue, right? Like, there are actually limits to what we're able to do. So we are in an area that is extremely built up. That's just the facts. Okay? We have been, we have to work with the adjoining zoning to all of our school properties, right? So, which is, that's why, we can't build more at schools in areas that actually have a lot more land, okay? So this is very, I know, in the weeds. I see you going like this, but that means we can't, what it means is that we can't do anything.
I didn't understand what you were saying.
Okay, what I'm saying is that the school, I apologize, the schools are tied to the zoning in the adjacent neighborhood, something we asked to change in the current code, and they said no. So we are not able to say, nope, we can't take any more kids, nor do we want to. We're a public school. We believe in public education, and we believe in education for our children to be good stewards of the environment. But sustainable communities also require sustainable and good schools. And we are in a position where we do not have options. And I do hear people who say, you don't care. You don't care if the kids have fields, and you'd rather have the trees. I get that. That's something people can say. I can't disagree with that for your particular, if that's what you believe. But that is not what we believe. And that is not, in fact, what a lot of people in our community believe, which is that the kids do actually need fields. So we are in a very difficult situation, and obviously, as Mr. Lee says, we can continue to talk to people, but we've been doing this for a long time. Okay? And you can go yourself and look. You don't even need GIS. You can look at Google Earth, okay, and see, where the property lines are, who owns the houses, and all the rest of it. So, I don't really know what else to say, because we do not have options here that are reasonable options. And we have said that we will, replant trees. I know it's not the same thing as a mature tree. I understand that. But you're asking us, some of you are asking us to put these trees above our kids when, developers have been doing this and it doesn't appear anybody's been showing up. So this is extremely frustrating, okay? As somebody who has been working on this now for years, okay, and every solution we put out not to do this got shot down by one neighborhood or one commissioner or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? It's like whack-a-mole. So we have found land that, by the way, Villanova was days from buying. okay, which they had, talked about potentially with the guy, dormitories and all kinds of stuff. So that's the options that were out there. That was the situation we were in. And I'm saying this, as the former president of the school board who was involved with all of this intimately. It is really not sort of the school board or the administration's goal to find a bunch of trees to take down. That wasn't how we started this. What we started was actually looking, our top priority was to find a place that we could put a middle school and fields. And if we couldn't do that, we were going to have to increase on other properties, because we knew that there was very unlikely for us to even find a property big enough to hold a middle school. We knew that. And there were lots of discussions with lots of people that I'm not at liberty to talk about in terms of trying to find spaces. 1860 was not ideal. It's not ideal. We're on the other side of the township to where the kids are. Okay? I mean, that's the reality of it. All right? If you were able to replan the entire Lower Merion and Narberth Township, you would not set up the schools where they are today. But we don't have the luxury of starting from scratch. And we have a middle school that is going to actually be an asset to this community, that is going to allow us to do a better job of managing enrollment long term, because having that space means if we actually get more kids, we're able to do that. If we get less kids, we can, potentially have full day kindergarten, right? It gives us a lot more flexibility to have that middle school. So, we held our nose and put a middle school on the wrong side of the district because we had no other alternatives. And now we're in the situation where we have to have fields, and they're not directly adjacent even to the school. None of this is ideal. And we have spent years trying to figure this out, where every solution we've come up to, some other group and some other commissioner has told us absolutely not. So this is where we are. And everybody's willing to, to have discussions, but there is no, if you can find that amount of land that somebody is actually willing to sell us that doesn't have trees on it near the school, more power to you. But this is, frankly, it's really frustrating. As people who are environmentalists, many of us in our jobs do work in this area, in sustainability, but we're not in a perfect world, and our kids need the fields. And it's not just elite athletes who use those fields, and the entire community could use the fields, except the township is now telling us that they won't allow us to open it up to the rest of the community. That's on them. Despite the fact that their actual, what is it called? The planning? Comprehensive. Thank you. Their comprehensive plan states that this community, this Lower Merion, needs more fields for our kids. So, I'm going to stop there, but I'm just saying, it's incredibly frustrating to be in this position, and it is really, really, frankly, just outrageous, in my view, that people are coming to us around this issue when everything we've tried to do has been blocked by different communities and different commissioners. And we have never said this in public before, despite what the commissioners say at the table. And I realize I'm not, I've only got a few more months, okay? We have always held our tongue, whatever they've said about us. But this is ridiculous.
I just wanted to make an additional comment. Thank you, Melissa, for providing all that context. One of the challenges we have, besides the fact that we already don't have enough fields for existing schools, and as other people have articulated, we have to bus kids now, as we're seeking to build excitement and momentum to populate the new middle school, we also have to think about equity among all the schools. So from the beginning, we knew it was important that this school had as many equal facilities as the other schools as we could possibly provide, even if, and so as was pointed out before, busing, which has its own environmental impacts, and also just other impacts, is not ideal. So it was really important to this board that from the get-go, we make this new school, which again, we're going to have to kind of reimagine our whole district to make sure this school gets populated and the community is excited about it, that it had some things that would make it equal, if not even more exciting than our existing schools. So I just wanted to highlight that. A lot of thought and effort has gone in to get us this far, and we're really close to this exciting new moment for the district, and we all care about balancing all of these important issues, but we're almost there, and we intend to get there in a way that's as good for the community as possible. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ackman. I almost hate to circle back to a very specific question, but I'm going to anyway. Following up on Mr. Driscoll's question around baseball and softball fields, we were in a meeting with some of the commissioners, Mr. Lill, and you had mentioned that finding space for a baseball field is actually quite difficult. And so when people think about, let's try to find space for fields, sort of in their head is, oh, I could fit a soccer field there, or I could fit a lacrosse field. But in reality, sort of the biggest deficit in the township, both at our schools and in the township overall, are baseball and softball fields. And you had mentioned that there's a specific, like you need at least a certain amount of space for those fields. Could you share that again?
So, Mrs. Klein, you are correct. There is a shortage of baseball and softball fields. I can't tell you off the top of my head the acreage that a softball field takes up or a baseball field. That just couldn't calculate that quickly in my head. But as you can see, a baseball field, a softball field is more of a pie shape. You have a triangular pie wedge that needs to be fit with the proper orientation, as Mr. Driscoll stated, for the batter's eye, and also so that you have enough distance down the right field line, the left field line, and straightaway center. A rectangular field is a little bit more forgiving because a rectangular field is 300 feet long by 165 wide. If you can find a parcel that has that same footprint, a soccer field would fit. A baseball field or softball field is going to overlap that acreage, no matter how you orient it. And that is one of the things about looking at various properties. It's not just the gross acreage. I mean, the 13.3 on this particular property work, but we're very accustomed to property lines, property boundaries that are very, very irregular. Angles coming in and out and kind of all over the place. These are two of the most rectangular boundary lines on pieces of property I've seen throughout the township. So it really gives us the ability to fit these. But if you had 13 acres in a parallelogram or other type of geometry or shape, I can't tell you that a baseball field would fit into those boundaries.
Thank you. That's very helpful. Next, I'd like to address, a number of people have written in about the pedestrian access on Stone Ridge Lane. And my understanding is that the original plans that the district had put together did not include pedestrian access for Stone Ridge Lane, and that the township staff requested that we put that in. Is that correct?
Just to clarify on the point, pedestrian access along Stone Ridge Lane was always going to be accessible because we're not gating this the way we'd gate a school. For example, that gate on County Line Road will always be open. There is no gate. I take that back. There is no gate on County Line Road. We were always going to have stone.
The point is that people were always going to be able to walk from the neighborhood onto the property.
Correct.
The township staff insisted that they be sidewalks there.
Okay.
Which we added. So the access was always there. That was not going to be gated off, except for the limitations on the bus but you can still have the bus come through here, the pedestrians off to the side. And as Mr. Copeland stated, there is a frontage along Stonebridge Lane where they requested a sidewalk, which we've agreed to do. But we've always considered that there was going to be pedestrian access coming down Stonebridge Lane. It's a very appropriate way for people to walk onto the property.
Okay. So the issue then is, so I know that a number of neighbors are concerned with that access. And I know that, so that the township asked to put in sidewalks, and part of adding in those sidewalks requires taking down trees. So I had mentioned in a meeting with several of the commissioner from that local area and another, that we would be willing and open to not doing those sidewalks and not doing that sort of very visible pedestrian access. If the township said you do not need to put in those sidewalks, is that correct? And that I'm trying to think through this idea that it's something that the township has asked us to do, the neighbors don't want.
We don't want.
We don't want, and if we did not do, we would save some number of trees.
Are there trees on
24.
that pedestrian access?
20.
That's on county line.
County line would be 24. There is no impact on any trees for that access because that was always kind of accessible because Stonebridge Lane downladed.
Okay.
You just have to open the fence. It always dead-ended. So to provide pedestrian access on the Stonebridge really didn't cost any trees, didn't really impact any trees because that road was already there. You were just opening it up. It dead ends into a sealed fence. So there really wasn't any tree impact there. There would be impact on 24 existing trees if the sidewalk along County Line Road is constructed per code, and that is something that we have requested a waiver for. So there's opportunities for that waiver to be granted and other options to be explored. Does that answer the question?
Well, so I'm going to follow up on that last point and point out that there are no sidewalks on either side of this property, right? So I understand that the commissioner is talking to the neighbors on the west side of the property about putting in sidewalks there, but on the right side, which is Stoneleigh was given a waiver. So they did not need to put in a sidewalk. And so unless, I'll say that I don't know the details of if the township could go back to Stoneleigh and say, since the school district is putting in a sidewalk, we want you to put in a sidewalk. But when they did their development, they got a waiver from a sidewalk for that part.
You are correct.
Correct, but even if there was a sidewalk fronting along Stoneleigh's property and 1835, it still doesn't go anywhere.
Understood.
Because there's no sidewalk along Spring Mill.
Correct, right.
So if there were a sidewalk along Spring Mill and a sidewalk along County Line and a sidewalk along Montgomery, then I think a sidewalk in front of our facility makes sense. Because then you've got some walkability, but you don't have any walkability. And our concern is that you've created a real drop-off nuisance that has a dangerous aspect to it.
Fully 100%. I am a huge proponent of sidewalks. I think sidewalks are very, very important. But at the same time, I think it's very dangerous to have a sidewalk that connects to nothing, because then you have students or you have individuals that go from sidewalk and then go into a road. So I think that's very important. But to go back to that pedestrian access that I know a lot of neighbors have, the pedestrian access along Stone Ridge, because a lot of neighbors are very concerned about that. And I just wanted to ask or to see if we got the township to say you don't have to put in sidewalks there, the district is fine with that, correct?
Correct.
We don't necessarily want those sidewalks on Stone Ridge. We are putting them in because the township is asking us to.
Correct.
Okay. So, and we as a school district are willing to not have those sidewalks if the township tells us we don't need to.
Correct.
The fields would still function fully.
Correct. Right. So I wanted to address an issue that a number of neighbors have had a concern that it is a very visible pedestrian access because of the sidewalks, and that they would rather that not be there. And I just wanted to publicly say that we as a district are fine not having those sidewalks there. We just need the township to say it's okay not to put them in.
Yes, President Klein, if I may, the way that the township code reads is when you go to land development, the township can tell you to install sidewalks basically on any road that has any major use. I forget the exact terminology, but basically, once you submit a land development plan, they can look at that frontage and say, this is somewhere that a sidewalk should be added if it's not already there. So by definition and by that code, the sidewalk along Stone Ridge was shown on the plans to comply with that section of the code. However, there could be a waiver granted similar to the waiver that we're requesting for County Line Road and similar to the waiver that was granted to Stoneley to waive the sidewalk along County Line Road. And if I may, I can't speak for the topography and the plantings at Stoneley. Building a sidewalk along County Line Road on that Stoneley frontage is another dramatic number of trees that will be impacted.
Thank you. And I just wanted to say one last thing. There have been a number of comments about people walking this property, the school district property, and making comments about things that were on the property. I want to just remind everyone that it is actually a private residence. The district bought the property, but the existing resident on that property has leased it back and is living there. And it is a private residence, and I just implore everyone to respect their privacy. It is, unfortunately or not open space right now for people to just go walk around. Please respect the privacy of the individuals that are living there now. Thank you. Any other? Okay, great, thank you. So now it is time for audience recognition. At this time, Mrs. LaPera will call the first 3 people on the list to please begin to line up on the designated spots by the podium. I'd like to take a minute and remind you that you must be a district resident and each person is given 3 minutes. For safety purposes, additional names will be called as spots in the line open. We ask that you please keep your masks on during public comment and follow the arrows when you return to your seat.
Well, they're actually
If you are joining us via Zoom, you should be seeing a 10-minute timer appear on your screen. Ms. LaPera, did you do the timer?
I didn't get it because
Not
I
yet.
didn't
Okay.
want to.
In a moment, rephrase that. In a moment, you will be seeing a 10-minute timer appear on the screen, and the chat feature will be opened. Please begin your question or comment with your full name and where you reside within the district for your comment to be shared. And I ask that also of people doing public comment, please list your name and where you live. It doesn't need to be your street. It can just be, I live in Villanova, I live in Ballackinwood. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Our first 3 are Linda Pitt, Richard Tolan, Nancy Winkler, and then Deborah Robbins will also fit. And then I'll name the next ones as they come up.
Excuse me 1 second. Are you doing the chat in Zoom now? So I can put the timer up?
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you.
I'm Linda Pitt, and I live in Narberth/Marion, Avon Road. I respect your hard work. You can't hear me? Oh, sorry. Thank you. I respect your hard work. I hear your frustration. I appreciate the gentleman, Mr. Lee's offer to meet with community citizens who are concerned about this plan. I appreciate that, and we will definitely take you up on your offer. I just want to let you know where I'm coming from. My son, my niece, my nephew graduated from these wonderful schools. All of them were very involved in many different sports programs, served as captain and co-captains. I helped sell snacks at many a game and served some pre-game day dinners. So sports are important. I support all athletic programs, but I'm also here to support the mature forest that stands near that we've talked about already and is on the chopping block. It is not similar to 335. 335 was degraded. It had an abundance of non-native plantings and trees and invasives. This property is a rich forest with natives that are many very, very mature. All of us here, I know, can't help but hear and read about the plight of our planet and how important trees are to our environment. Community members have been spending days planting trees, either through their civic association or for the local parks or the shade tree commissions. Children are with us planting. Children are in our classrooms learning about sustainability, about the effects of climate change, and how important trees are to solving this problem on this planet. We've got to walk the walk and talk the talk and walk the walk. We've got to. I hear you, you've been through this a long time. I hear Mayberry happened and 335. But we are here right now, and we can do better. Some of the trees in this forest are native tulips and native oak trees. Please, if you haven't, oh, I have to keep.
Thank you.
No.
Richard Tolan.
My name is Richard Tolan. I live at 705 Cedar Lane in Villanova. The suggestion or allegation that we are pitting students against trees indicates a profound misunderstanding of what we're saying and what we care about. We're interested in preserving these trees precisely because we care about our children. The most important issue our children face is not where the ball fields are. It's not 7th grade algebra or 9th grade algebra. The most important issue they face is that we are putting them on a path toward inhabiting a planet, their planet, making it unfit for comfortable human habitation. That's the most important issue in their lives and for all of us. And every decision we make should be made through a lens of sustainability. We should look at this not as we're building a school, therefore we need to destroy property in order to build fields. We should look at it as we have these kids, we need to find a way for them to enjoy sport without destroying their environment forever. And there are ways to do it. You're just looking too blindly at having to find a new lot of land. And you say that you want to work with community groups, and I think you should, because there are things ways that we can find for the kids to have at least some of their sports without just destroying their property for them. And we care about the kids. As a physician, I care about the health of our kids. And one tree, not the trees that you're going to replant, but one of these old trees that's 100 feet long, can put 6,000 pounds of oxygen in the air, enough for a family of 4 for multiple generations. That cleans the air, purifies the air, and protects our children. There are a number of studies have shown that the incidence of childhood asthma increases in communities when the tree canopy is removed. A number of studies have shown that. But it isn't just the kids. There are studies recently published in the American Journal of Cardiology that about 20% of all cardiac deaths is related to air pollution in the United States, in Lower Merion. Now, I can't tell you how many cardiac deaths we'll prevent by saving these trees, or how many fewer incidents of childhood asthma we'll have by saving these trees. But I can tell you, removing the trees will head us in the wrong direction. We're here because we care about the kids, not because we care about the trees, because we care about the kids and their environment. Thank you.
Thank you. Nancy Winkler, then we have Deborah Robbins, Andrew Abramson, and Dan Sutton.
Hello, my name is Nancy Winkler. I live in Marion. I'm representing Climate Action Lower Merion. It's a group of people who came together because we felt that the level of discussion in Lower Merion around public policy issues related to climate change and sustainability needed to be elevated, and that we needed to engage the community in a new way, both for educational purposes and to shift policy decisions towards a sustainable future for our children and our grandchildren. We are deeply concerned about this plan to clear cut over 500 mature, native, healthy trees to build playing fields. Turf grass, no value to the environment, none. Thereby destroying ecologically important biodiverse habitat and unnecessarily contributing to further wildlife loss and environmental degradation in the township. There are many interrelated implications for clear-cutting a forested lot this large. In addition to providing important habitat for resident and migratory birds and insects, the trees produce our oxygen that we breathe, and then it cleans the air we pollute. They sequester enough carbon to offset the annual carbon emissions of 3,200 vehicles for a year. The stormwater, water pollution, carbon release, soil erosion impact, and loss of temperature moderation that this development will cause is much bigger than, as you all describe it, cutting down 500 trees and then planting some more trees. This is a large, complex, biodiverse habitat that is rare in Lower Merion. It is not degraded with invasives. It's just not the same. And I think it's important to educate people to understand it's not the same. So we are further disturbed that this is being done by an elected body with our dollars because it's being grandfathered. You've chosen a process where you get to grandfather it under outdated codes that are no longer the codes for development today in Lower Merion. So you know that our township has already moved in a new direction by their policies to a more sustainable approach, but you have used a provision that allows you to use the old codes that our policymakers have disregarded. So that's a deep concern of ours. We believe this will leave a legacy, not a legacy of a big fancy sports complex, but one of destruction and environmental indifference at a time when the science is clear that we need to plant more trees. It is clear we should not remove healthy ones. You'll leave a legacy of no concern for the ecosystems in our community, something that I know because I attended the climate strike last year that the students held on this property. None of you were there, but I was there and I listened to those children and their concerns. And those children are concerned about being in the 6th grade extinction and a legacy of long-term poor financial stewardship because we will have to pay for all the costs to achieve net zero carbon and to adjust to this future that cutting down the trees helps to contribute to. Thank you.
Deborah?
I'm Deborah Robbins. I live at 1850 Stone Ridge in Villanova. I hear that you are frustrated and feel like you are not being heard. I would say that you are being heard. My neighbors feel frustrated and know that they are not being heard. We have been imploring the district since many months ago. Pandemic got in the way, but we do not want school buses being making our neighborhood into a thoroughfare. We have grave concerns for safety on our curving residential grade streets. We have had accidents on Claremont where cars land in the lawns. We have concern for pedestrians, children, people pushing strollers, the elderly, and so forth. We are not being heard. In terms of the environmental issues, you feel like you're not being heard. We feel like we're not being heard. I won't reiterate the multitude. You should be educated on all this. I don't need to tell you, but I'll throw in my 2 cents. I've been taking care of high-risk pregnant women for 40 years. The literature as of March of this year absolutely confirms that air pollution is a significant contributor to preterm birth. miscarriage, stillbirth, low birth weight, and hypertensive disorders of pregnancy. These are our future students that we're talking about. I'd like to see them healthy even before they're born. You talk about having no options, but I would say, I don't know. I hear that I've heard that the township has tried to help you. I can't say who's right, who's wrong. I don't know, but I would ask you to think a little harder and put the brakes on, because what you have to lose is some fields. What we are fighting not to lose is the earth. I would ask you to think more creatively and with the assistance of the taxpayers and the township. Look around. What did Shipley do? They built an underground parking with sports on top. What did they do at Friends Select? They have a field on the roof of their building. Stuff can be done. It's, you know, there's just, when you say there's no answer, then you make it no answer. My idea, you have the property, wouldn't it be a real credit to make it a school district environmental education center, a living laboratory for natural science with its forest, its wetland, its three-way watershed? Kids can learn biology, earth science, atmospheric science, chemistry, physics, art, plein air painting, nature-inspired creative writing, outdoor theater and music, woodworking for the trees that fall down, social activities. These are things that sustain rather than destroy, and set an example, and have adults be role models as stewards of the environment.
Thank
and
you.
I ask you to think about that. Thank you.
Mr. Abramson, then Dan Sutton, Ruth Jenkin, Rosa Sirota, and then Tanya Schreiber.
My name is Andrew Abramson. I live in Villanova, right near Deb, who just spoke. First and foremost, I want to say that I'm sorry. I'm sorry that this has been so hard for you, to look for the right property and to try to fit all the needs in of everybody. I can imagine that it's been tough, but to be honest, I really don't feel sorry for you all. This is what you're supposed to do. And one of the mistakes that you've made is not involving the direct neighborhood in between these two properties. And this is absolutely going to destroy our neighborhood. And if you think otherwise, you're wrong. I do think it's hilarious. I don't know what your name is over there in the corner, that you said you want to work together, but all of you have been slightly contentious in the way that you've been addressing this and saying that this is just the way that it has to be. And you're saying that this is for the benefit of the community. I'm not really seeing that. I'm not really seeing how you're factoring in the buses going through. Maybe your 4 buses, Lucy wrote me and said 4 buses a day are going to go through, and that's it. Okay, maybe 4 buses from the school, maybe. What about the hundreds of cars? What about the people parking on the street idling for their kids? What about everybody using the neighborhood? Deb very eloquently talked about the community and the neighborhood directly and how it's going to impact not just people parking on the street, and they're not very big streets and very wide, but in addition to that, they are talking about basically losing all of our livelihood in terms of where we live and what we do. Can't go out with my dogs, can't go out with my children, because if everything is taken up and there's cars parked, and right now there's already some cars parked at the bottom of the street from Villanova students, and that's already starting to cause issue. And that's a few cars. I can't even imagine when fields are built and the Lower Merion Township decides, hey, we want to use these. My kids play Lower Merion Township sports, and I will tell you, the neighborhoods that those are affected by are completely impacted. Deb said it perfectly. Build up. Do what Shipley did. Save the environment, build higher, do something different. Don't expand out. It's a very simple process. There was an engineer here at one of the meetings who did that with Shipley. It is absolutely possible, and it is something sustainable, and it's something way better for the community, both in that neighborhood, and there's multiple neighbors in the neighborhood that would love to be here but can't, and would say the same thing. Find another way. There are absolutely other ways. And don't say that you've been doing this for years. So do it for another couple of years to make it the right call. This is not the right call. Thank you.
Superintendent, President Klain, and Board of Directors. As Nancy stated, CALM is here to educate our neighbors.
Say, who are you?
I am Dan Sutton. I live in Wynwood. Sorry. I've been here since 1979. I live on South Ardmore Park. I know what it's like to have activities. You didn't tell us as neighbors that the school district was coming to the park. You just came. It's 3 to 5. It's not a problem, but you just came. You didn't communicate. I'm talking about communication. Mr. Lee, I'd love to sit down with you, but President Klein, you have sent back to every email we've sent you the same boilerplate response, not even addressing what was in the emails. I am in favor of sports. I coached soccer with the Lower Merion Soccer Club. I was on the board of directors. I have been refereeing in this district for 25 years. I believe in climate change. I am part of an alliance that's been teaching climate change around the world with Project Drawdown and the 100 solutions that can be done. This middle school lead isn't enough. You're putting in heating and cooling systems that use gas, provided probably by fracking, that's making people in our state sick and the other rest of the country sick. Why aren't you doing something greener than that? Where's the solar panels on our schools? They don't exist. It's cheap now. You can do it and you're not. How institutions treat our people is about social justice. We are not being socially just, with all due respect to your frustrations. Shipley put fields on the parking lot. A friend's school put it on the buildings. Why aren't we being this creative? Why aren't we hearing about these options? I acknowledge my own white male privilege, and I'm focused on giving back. That's why I'm here. I'm not here to lecture you and make you feel guilty. That's not the message I want to give. I'm being dramatic because I'm passionate, and I feel your sensitivities. Until we, as a wealthy township, stand up and have a board of commissioners that puts the environment before the development and the taxes, we'll continue to make mistakes. I'm attending the EAC as well and giving them the same message that I'm giving you. Social justice for all. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. After Ms. Schreiber, we have Lisa Prosnitz and Jasmine Chang.
Hi, everybody. Glad to be back. I just want to say a couple of things. Can I take my mask off? Ruth Jenkin, Wynwood. Okay. When the podium is over here, we can hear people in the audience. When we speak now, I can't hear anybody back here. All the sound is going this way. So the podium used to be over here, and you could hear it and they could hear it. It was a much better arrangement. The second thing was the summer school. Is there a cost factor? I always ask about that. Is there a cost factor for the summer school? And what accommodations are made for multiple members of a family and people who can't afford it? I think it's a sad turn of events when a school district prefers lights on a field in an established neighborhood as opposed to a full-day kindergarten, which would respond to the achievement gap. With the planet in danger from pollution, virus, and hunger insecurity, the school board has a responsibility to lead in being stewards of the earth, not making the situation worse. The lights on Arnold Field make the situation worse. worse traffic, worse noise, worse invasion of lights. And the lights affect the circadian rhythm of the birds, the insects, the people. And the trees, and the deforestation of the trees in that Villanova neighborhood is once again a system that is deregulating and include the pollution of the earth. The inability of the school to regulate the parking around the high school in the neighborhoods adds to noise and the pollution and further compromises the environment and the quality of life. That will increase as the players and the nighttime and the activity increase. The school motto is to go forth and serve. Who are you serving but yourselves? With no thought to the greater good, isn't anybody on this board willing to step up and oppose some of the policies? Thank you.
I'm sorry, excuse me. Ms. Soretta, are you not speaking this evening?
I'm sorry. Who?
She's next, I'm sorry. I can swap them.
No.
Okay.
Good evening, Dr. Copeland and school directors. My name is Rosa Sorota. I am a parent, a grandparent, and a teacher. A few months ago, my neighbors and I purchased no lights on Arnold Field and put them on our properties. The majority of those lights were stolen, quickly stolen. We called the police, we went through the process, we registered our complaints, and several students were found being responsible for stealing our signs. That was one. Number two, last week we placed a banner saying no lights on Arnold Field on my fence. I live on Montgomery Avenue. A few days later, the banner was scrunched down to the bottom of my fence, not legible. A day later, it disappeared. No doubt somebody came back with metal shears to cut it off. Same week, 2 days later, 4 garden ornaments were stolen from my property, right in the area where the signs had been. Are any of you aware of this? Dr. Copeland? School board members, are you aware of this? Because the police came to my house 3 times. This is a teachable moment for you. My grandson attended Lower Merion High School. He was in the debate club. I listened to many debates where students were civil, respectful, and made their points without this kind of behavior and nastiness. The ball is in your court. Thank you.
Hi, Tanya Schreiber, Wynwood, Penwyn. The middle school project exists because the community came together to explore creative solutions to the school district's capacity issues. In 2015, expansion seemed the only viable alternative to a viable alternative. The entire community worked together to find a better one, landing on the possibility that a new middle school might be feasible at 1860. It took all of us, township officials, commissioners, school board directors, the neighbors, spending months to work it out, overcoming seemingly impossible hurdles to make 1860 a reality. It was incredible. We realized the situation evolved here differently. Unlike 1860, the school board had to act quickly on this unexpected opportunity. On December 21st, 2018, the school board held an emergency meeting to authorize the school district's eminent domain acquisition of 1800 Montgomery Avenue and 1835 County Line Road. The administration had just heard that Villanova had an agreement of sale signed, and an immediate vote would allow the school board to jump in instead. Just 8 days earlier, at the December 13th Facility Subcommittee meeting, there had been an extensive discussion of potential sites. 1800 and 1835 were not part of the discussions. The school board asked if the site that had been discussed 8 days earlier was still a consideration, but was told that could be discussed later. The eminent domain decision needed to be made immediately. There was no mention of the price, the size, or the distance of the property from the new middle school that would require 55% of 1,200 students to be bused back and forth when we only have 120 vehicles in our fleet. The $10 million and $3 million price tags were only visible as the presenters scrolled through the resolution as they spoke. The entire meeting lasted 8 minutes and 24 seconds. Now, in 2021, it's clear that 1800 Montgomery Avenue and 1835 County Line Road provide an expensive and complicated site, and it's useless to dwell on the decision. The board felt it was critical to act immediately. But we aren't in that situation now. The fields will not open until May 2023. We have time to conduct an analysis of the ongoing operating expenses and the logistical challenges associated with busing almost all student athletes to and from a middle school. We have the time to revisit earlier drafts of 1860, where the administration said only 2 off-site fields were needed. We can assess the impact an extra bus ride might have on all of these students and this middle school, as the other 2 middle schools have almost all of their athletic programs on their school campuses. We have the opportunity, and I believe the obligation, to conduct that same effort originally placed on the decision to build at 1860, to invite everyone to creatively evaluate the needs and options and work together to ensure we are making the right choice. We don't need to revisit the choices made in 8 minutes and 24 seconds, as perhaps it was the best decision available today, but we owe it to the students, the community, and this beautiful property to revisit the decision now. And I ask that you pause the zoning and legal processes for just a few months to see what might have been overlooked before. Because after participating in the 1860 effort, I believe in the creativity, passion, and innovation of this community and its leadership. And I know if given the chance, I know they'll amaze us again. Thank you.
Ms. Prosnitz and Ms. Chang.
Can I respond before the next, just a couple of issues. One, the sports that are going to be transported, they're not going to require all 1,200 kids to be transported to the fields all at one time. So you're talking about, depending on the sport, depending on the season, just the students who are on that team would be transported. Secondly, the decision that the board made about 1835 wasn't made in 8 minutes before a board meeting. We had had discussions with the landowners prior to that, going back to the spring of 2018. Our engineers had visited the site. Our operations department had visited the site. We were on ongoing negotiations. So I just respectfully disagree with the assertion that this was a quick decision. Finally, pausing is a problem for us. I think you heard Mr. Lee and other board members say that, hey, if something else comes up that's better, where we could sell this, get another piece of land, and get approved in time for the school opening, that's a possibility. But if we delay, we run into the situation where come 2023, we've got no options, And then we find ourselves in the same situation we found ourselves in 1860, where we had to get a quick approval, and that cost us $500,000 that the township charged us in off-site improvements that were not required by code. But we had no ability to say no because we had to move quickly. That's why it's important to move together, but not to pause.
Lisa Prosnitz, Penn Valley. Mr. Copeland, you're not going to like my comments either. But I'm here tonight because the Township's Environmental Advisory Council, the Climate Action Lower Merion, as well as local civic organizations and residents have all shared concerns that demolition of the 500-plus trees for fields will have disastrous consequences for years to come. I ask the board to honor their recommendations and follow Mr. Lee's suggestion and request that the district not move forward with a full public consideration without a full public consideration of the implications and a transparent effort to evaluate alternatives with all of our past options discussed. Our children depend on you, and they are watching closely, even tonight. I hear frustrations, but I'm looking for collaboration. At multiple meetings, there have been discussions of plans for the new middle school. Many other community members are just learning about the field issues, so I would like to run through significant events of 2018 so that we're all speaking from the same timeline, which may help others better understand where we are today and may initiate more questions. February 5th of 2018, the school board discussed building a new middle school at 1860. The plan included a design for fields and tennis courts on property. One field at Gladwin would be needed each season. May 15th, the Board of Commissioners reluctantly voted against the pending application to protect 1860 property as a historical landmark because the designation might complicate the plans to build a school on site. October 18th, the Board of Commissioners voted to dramatically increase the allowable impervious surface at 1860. December 13th, at the facilities subcommittee meeting, the school board reviewed and discussed the need for 2 additional fields that did not fit in the latest site designs. Engineering designs of potential solutions, including the purchase of 912 Spring Mill, were discussed. 4 days later, December 17th, the general school board meeting with no mention of 912 Spring Mill Road. 3 days later, December 21st, was the emergency meeting, as Tanya discussed. Here we are 3 years later, and our community is not altogether absolved from fault. The timeline was from 2018, and while we may not have been nearly engaged enough, and some may not truly understand the work that went into the decisions made, I ask the board to recognize that for many, there has been a degree of trust with the school district to continue providing excellent school services. I stand before you as an ally, eager to collaborate, to search for common ground. I ask that we pause so that we ask what we really want to teach our children. In what ways has Lower Merion School District brought our community together to establish our values, assess our concerns, and develop solutions for what is clearly a very complicated issue? I sincerely ask that Lower Merion School District begin to connect with the community on a deeper level, to nurture trust and understanding so that together we can build the community in which we would like to live. I ask that the school board take an honest look at the board's relationships with our commissioners, civic associations, parents, as well as with the community at large, recognizing that you have a tremendous opportunity to affect change in the most positive way. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jasmine Chang, and I live in Penn Valley, and I'm a 7th grader at Welsh Valley Middle School. I appreciate you giving middle schoolers the opportunity to going back to school 4 days a week. Will there be an opportunity to go back to school 5 days a week starting May? I'm finished.
At this time, no, it's going to be 4 days a week in the middle school.
Okay, thank you.
That completes our in-person public comment. Thank you.
Before you go to the chat, I was just looking back into some emails, and so I have something here from my architect. He's not here. He'd be better at explaining it than I am, but we did look I don't see a date on these concepts. We did look at sports on top of facilities, and I actually am looking at an initial concept design. The problem is that then, from what I'm reading here, means that it has to be on top of the facility itself. That means it adds to the cost of the facilities. Unlike a private school, we're regulated by the Pennsylvania Department of Education, and we have to keep the school costs within a certain level. Otherwise, we're not able to do it without a referendum. And so that's why it was rejected. It was rejected because of the design and the added cost it would be to the building.
Thank you, Ms. Buckman. If you can read the comments from the chat.
Sure. So these are the comments that came in from the chat. Alex and Barry Weiner, who live on Claremont Road. We support fields. The child will attend middle school and use the fields. Overall, we think that the project can be good, but the field design is not conducive to neighbors' needs. Number one, density. There is not enough parking on the site. Insufficient parking will lead to parking on Claremont and Stone Ridge. No one wants parking permits. Field site is huge. Try harder to fit more parking. Number two, fencing. Proposed fencing is weak for the border between fields and neighbors on Claremont. We know code only requires 6-foot fence. If you are genuinely here to support us and kids, we hope you would do more than the bare minimum and install at least an 8-foot shadow box fence to prevent visibility and noise. Number three, lighting. 20-foot poles like you would see in a shopping center aren't necessary for a middle school field. More attractive 10-foot lights are better and less visible from a distance. Countless examples are in the township and also on Villanova's campus. 4, trees, many trees alongside the proposed bus drive parking. The next comment is from Sean McMurtry of Marion Station.
Just real quick for that, it's not that the code says you can't build fences more than 6 feet.
The next comment is from Sean McMurtry of Marion Station. There are many flat fields surrounding schools in the district that are largely used. What is the plan to maximize the use of already owned flat land with no ecological value? Specifically, how many fields are needed? Specifically, for what schools are they needed? What is being done to maximize utilization of the land currently owned by Lmsd? Would it not be better for kids to use fields closer to their homes? Ballackinwood Middle School, for example, is surrounded by a vast expanse of flat open grass that is not ever or rarely used. Marion Elementary is also surrounded by a very large expanse of grass. What other alternatives exist? Why bus kids out to Villanova if we have land close to home? Michelle Davis, Ballackinwood. What is the plan for special education students who want to attend specific summer programs this year? Will they have the same opportunities as general education students? If so, who will be responsible for making sure special education children are represented in all of these programs?
So I think that the extended year program is going on, and those families have been contacted. And I believe that depending on the IEP, special education students can be in the SPIES program, correct? Okay.
Jamie Selway, Haverford. When will the board propose its 2021-22 budget with the 2020-21 fiscal year concluding at a substantial surplus and Lmsd benefiting from $2 million of COVID-related grants? Is the board considering tax relief for Lower Merion Township citizens during these challenging economic times?
Presenting of the budget, Mr. Orlando.
Next week.
April board meeting next week.
Next week. Mara Gillen, Haverford. This is a long one, Ms. LaPera, so you might want to time it. I want to voice my support for the continued diligence of the LMSD staff in addressing the myriad requirements associated with building the right new middle school in the right way with the right physical amenities, including the nearby playing fields. In following these projects for many years, to now read the preliminary plan, I have been impressed by LMSD's thoughtful efforts to not just meet the minimum land development standards of Lower Merion Township,
but to focus on student development, think long-term, and care for the larger community. The plan for the fields focuses carefully on removing only the trees that really need to be removed and to replenish the removed trees in a way that maximizes the value of those trees on the existing properties as well as on other LMSD properties. I appreciate that the district staff remains open to input and discussion on how best to create the impressive new middle school complex, and I hope to see further collaboration play out. Then she says, time permitting, I would like to ask, first, what efforts have been made to transplant some trees rather than replenish all of them? Would the district be open to engagement with other agencies that could potentially take some of the live trees from the property, contingent on timing and funding? Second, could you please explain Dr. Gilbert's comments about Lower Merion Township not wanting to allow public use of the new fields? Finally, regarding the sidewalks, please look at Lower Merion's capital improvement plan, which has included County Line Road sidewalks for some years now. Working collaboratively, I'm sure the district and township staffs could agree to install the portions of the sidewalk connecting the field's driveway to Claremont Road as a first phase and let the township work with Stoneleigh on a second phase to get the remaining portion of the sidewalk to Spring Mill Road completed in the future.
I didn't quite hear all of it. This is a casualty of a face mask, but I think the specific question was about the township use. In the
and also whether we would be willing to transplant.
Oh, I think we'd certainly be willing to transplant or work with anybody who's looking to transplant the trees. In terms of the township use, we have all the parking that we need for our use. Initially, and I'm looking at Mr. Lill, I think they were requiring an additional 119 parking spaces.
Yep.
You can go right here. Sorry. Real quick, Jim.
Yes, sir. The number of parking spaces shown is 52, which exceeds the requirement for the use of the fields as playing fields. The township had stated that another, I think, 60 parking spaces was required above and beyond that. So the total number came up to about 112. We're providing 52. That is more than sufficient for the middle school fields. Okay.
The next comment is from Jen Kelly of Penn Valley. Dear Lower Merion School Board of Directors and Superintendent Copeland, while I understand the inclination to compare to private development projects, there is a difference between private development and using taxpayer funds to decimate a habitat. You rightly say that the school has been in the works for years. However, the specific plan to cut hundreds of trees was not revealed until the plans were submitted to the township. We didn't know the environmental implications back in 2017. In addition, the animosity of the LMSD toward the Board of Commissioners that has been demonstrated tonight is concerning. I think most of us as taxpayers would prefer to see our two taxing bodies work together on these problems, and I would implore the board and the Board of Commissioners to put aside past grievances and make another attempt to find a better solution. Adrian Seltzer Winwood, is the new middle school sustainable? How will it be powered? Geothermal, solar, etc. Will not all kids have to be bused to the fields? Will kids from other schools be using these fields? What goals were set by the board for the superintendent for the 2019-2020 and 2020-21 school years? Alexandra O'Neill Winwood, Mr. Lee mentioned the net carbon footprint, and I am wondering if this has been assessed by an outside environmental consultant to see what is actually the best option for the environment. Our kids need sports fields, and they also need a thriving planet. We encourage our students to think outside the box. We need to do the same. I recognize the hard work that has been done and the lack of space in the district. We need to wake up to the fact that the sacrifices we need to make for our environment may lead to inconveniences and to the need to get more creative. And we need to step up to that challenge. I do not support removing 73% of the existing trees on this property, and none of us should. Thank you. Michelle Detweiler, Penn Valley, President of the Penn Valley Civic Association. Regardless of the history of the acquisition of 1800 and 1835 or the tremendous shortfalls of our old zoning code under which this development is being pursued, The Penn Valley Civic Association is deeply concerned about the proposal to cut 500 mature trees from these properties. We're at an inflection point in history where we must reconcile development with the needs of the environment, and we believe that many of our children share those values even if they play ball. We believe that replacement of a majority of the mature tree canopy of large native trees up to 5.5 feet in diameter with grass will create irreparable harm. None of us will be able to make up for the environmental losses on these properties in our lifetimes. Please continue to look for alternatives. Thank you for your openness to other options. Jennifer Freed in Wynwood. I'd like to thank the school board members for their tremendous work locating and acquiring a new middle school and field access. Question, can you confirm that the new middle school will have a basketball team starting the first year it's open? This is very important to my family and many others. Thank you.
Basketball is not a problem.
Not a problem, you said. And the final comment did not have a location with it, so that's it.
Cost of summer school is not going to be borne by the students unless they're taking a course simply for accelerations to free up an opportunity to take a different course or something like
Even then, there's a,
What's
even,
that?
even then, families who can't afford it.
Even then, families who can't afford, we will support. Yeah.
So thank you all very much. We do not have any recommended actions for tonight. It's not a business board meeting. We do have one additional piece of information, I guess. I don't know how to
And
phrase
if you
that.
don't mind, I'm going to take my mask off so my glasses don't fog up, so I'm going to read some notes. So, thank you, President Klein. At tonight's education meeting, I want to announce that I intend to retire this fall. Initially, my intent was to retire soon after the opening of the new middle school, which is being built to accommodate our ever-increasing enrollment. However, like so many others this past year, it's forced me to reevaluate my plans for my family and myself. My wife and I had planned on spending last year searching for a kinder, gentler climate in which to move eventually, and of course that had to be put on hold. It is with mixed emotions that I plan on retiring this fall. I feel an obligation in making certain the school project is going to be moved forward, and I want to make sure that our reopening is in good order, but after that I will bid a fond farewell. When I began my tenure in Lower Merion, the Board of School Directors made it clear that my #1 task was to take the strategic plan all forward, from inspiration and aspiration to implementation and reality. With the strong support of my colleagues and the community, I think we've done just that. Over the last 6 years, I have found myself saying over and over again how extraordinary the teachers, administrators, and support staff are in this district. I've always known that Lower Merion was something special, and this past year took my admiration to new levels. What I witnessed happened since March 13th, when the district was required to shut down in schools and offices, is something I could never have imagined. I was surrounded by a team of colleagues who rolled up their sleeves and said, "What do you need done?" As we worked on taking the district to remote learning in a matter of days, I once again saw what sets Lower Merion apart. The exceptional contributions made over the summer as supervisors and teachers took what they had learned and created a summer program to then adjusting yet again to the fall as we began our first of, I think I've counted 3 openings. They were amazing. I would be remiss if I didn't mention the work of those who prepared and delivered lunches, cleaned and sanitized buildings, and worked remotely to ensure the daily business of a school district, including delivering IEPs during the closure. This hard work and dedication are things that are to be praised and certainly not to be taken for granted. While the work is not done, I want to let you know how extremely proud I am to have served the students and community alongside such a great team. And to the Lower Merion Board of School Directors, who have been supportive taskmasters. This is my 3rd district as superintendent, and I can tell you without a doubt, no one does this job well without a top-flight board of school directors. Their compassion, commitment, and dedication know no boundaries. The issues they are required to oversee can be quite difficult at times, yet they always put the welfare of the students and community at the forefront. The intellectual capital, along with their commitment to every child in every neighborhood, in every school, has made my job meaningful and rewarding. I have greatly appreciated their support and will miss them and wish them luck and success in the future. In closing, I'm sincerely grateful and appreciate you all very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Copeland. On behalf of the board, I can say that we are hugely appreciative of your service and wish you nothing but the best. I was president of the Interschool Council in July 2015 when Mr. Copeland first came to Lower Merion. And although I was not part of the hiring process, I did know that his passion for implementing the strategic plan led to the board's decision to offer him the opportunity to lead Lower Merion forward. Mr. Copeland has graciously agreed to stay through the summer in order to ensure we are prepared for fall, and we are fortunate that he did not retire when his last contract was up, which I'm sure he second-guessed once COVID hit. We are incredibly grateful for his leadership during the unprecedented impacts from COVID and his transformational leadership implementing the strategic plan, expanding our focus in cultural proficiency to implementing anti-racist programs and policies, offering full-day kindergarten for students who need it for readiness, expanding equitable access to the gifted program, introducing program evaluation to guide changes, and his expertise in budgeting and facilities during a time of rapid enrollment growth, budget constraints, and attacks on public education. Throughout it all, Mr. Copeland maintained a focus on the holistic and academic needs of our students, and most enjoyed the opportunity to visit all of the buildings frequently and speak with teachers and students, including his regular meetings with high school students. Despite having to spend enormous time responding to COVID, he has continued to put in place the committees necessary to completely reimagine K-4 and 5-8 education, which is necessitated by the new middle school. We expect to acknowledge Mr. Copeland and his contributions at a time closer to his retirement, but I believe it's important to say now how truly extraordinary his leadership has been. The board expects to identify a consulting firm to assist with the search for a permanent superintendent by next Monday night. The search process will involve significant community and other stakeholder input into what characteristics the community would like to see in its next superintendent, and we are committed to holding these sessions before the end of the school year. We will keep the public well informed throughout the process. While we are disappointed that Mr. Copeland has chosen to retire, we don't want to let this transition cause there to be any deviation from the important progress accomplished under his tenure. Thank you. So that is the end of our meeting. First, though, to announce the upcoming meetings. We have the regular business board meeting will be next Monday night at 8 p.m. also here in the auditorium. The following committee meetings are being held via Zoom. On Wednesday, April 14th, the Ad Hoc Committee for Equity and Anti-Racism at 7 p.m. April 15th is the Facilities and Purchasing Committee at 8:30 a.m. April 21st is Finance Committee, the Student Services Budget Review at 8:30 a.m. And April 28th is another Finance Committee meeting, the Staffing and IT Budget Review, also at 8:30 a.m. And finally, as always, a reminder that tomorrow, Tuesday at 9:30 via Zoom is the monthly ISC Hot Topic, focusing on cultural proficiency, and you can find more information for that in your HSA newsletters. Good night, thank you very much.